Hello, and welcome to the Cultivating Confidence podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Grams. I am a life coach who specializes in anxiety, health, and human design. And I also happen to be a functional medicine pharmacist. This podcast is a compilation of conversations that I've had with clients and colleagues. So listen in as we explore the mind, body, and soul's confidence in its many forms. Gonna go.
Well, now we're recording.
Yeah.
Like such is life, we're going to have ups and downs, and especially us, like as coaches and teachers, we sometimes feel like, we're supposed to figure it all out, and like we're supposed to be masters of our own emotions, and like you're not supposed to feel those deep lows anymore. But really, it's about just knowing that this too shall pass. I can get through any emotion, because no matter what, through the rest of our entire lifetime, there's going to be the ebb and flow, the ups and downs, extreme highs and extreme lows, no matter what level of practice you have. Like no matter what your education or background or what have you, or what tools you have, you're going to face the deep, dark emotions. And sometimes they're going to slap you right in the face when you least expect it.
Well, and I feel like that's one of the biggest myths that we sort of buy into, that no one really says out loud, but we think that enlightenment means always being happy, everything's good all the time. But like what it really means is being open to the human experience and experiencing emotions at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and not being afraid to face that.
Exactly. I love you said that perfectly. And like just letting yourself feel. In this society where we constantly, are being told, don't cry, suck it up, stuff it down, just keep going, just keep moving, run away from the feelings. Like we just let it build up and become this big beast that we keep trying to lock into a cage. And how many of us then experience those moments, emotional outbursts where it's usually the tiniest little thing that's enough to spill you over the edge. And it ends up building up and feeling so much worse than had we let ourselves feel the feelings in the moment when they arise.
Yeah.
So we were just talking a few moments ago, just this week alone, we both experienced extreme emotional lows that seemed, to come out of nowhere. And what could we do but just let ourselves feel it? So I honestly spent a day, clearly my body needed the rest. I spent one day like almost sleeping the entire day. I hardly talked to anybody. I let myself embrace and kind of close and go into the solitude and just let myself feel. And what I found for the first time, gosh, in 7.5 years, I probably cried the hardest I ever have, just like grieving and missing my dad. And it took me all day, pointing fingers at like everyone. It's the snow, it's the weather, it's seasonal depression, which definitely plays a factor. Sure. I'm not taking my vitamin D. I'm disconnected from these people. I'm not doing the plan I want to do right now. Like there's all of these things, external circumstances that are making me feel this way. And I wasn't sure exactly how to explain it until I let myself sit in it. Oh, I just dug deep enough to find this grief over missing my father that I did not let myself release and process many, many years ago. And though it hurt, like in the moment of just like letting myself sob and just feel sad, part of me felt so relieved knowing like it's okay to just be sad right now. It's okay to just miss him. And to resist that urge to like suck it up, stuff it down, you're fine.
It's been enough time. You shouldn't be feeling
this. Right. It's been so long. I should be over it. Right. Like there is no getting over it. There is no getting over a loss of a loved one. Oh my gosh. You get used to it.
Yeah.
You get used to
time is not the thing that heals it.
It is not at all. And it's a wound that never completely heals. Yeah. I found, especially on my spiritual journey, honestly, I feel more connected to my father now than I ever have on a spiritual level. And I've been telling myself this whole time, like, I'm still connected with him. I'm fine. Get over it.
Yeah.
Don't be sad. You've got to support other people. I've got to support my family through this. I've got to show them how to be connected. But what I realized and remembered the other day was like, we've got to, allow ourselves space to just feel those hard emotions too. Because man, after that hard cry, It felt so good after that.
Mm-hmm.
What a relief. You can imagine, it's like I had been stepping down like this huge weight down in the pit of my stomach and just letting it get heavier and heavier and keep stuffing it down. And every time it wanted to come back up, one tear come out, I would suck it back in. Nope, no,
Yeah.
back down. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But finally letting that out, letting that weight off of me. Huh. And talk about like just giving yourself that freedom to just cry, to just be sad. You don't have to be happy all the time. And know that by letting yourself feel these lows fully and give yourself compassion in that moment, oh, we're carving out this great big space to fill back up with joy.
Yeah.
We can't know how high the highs can be. We can't know what happiness is even at all if we never felt, the dark depths of sadness or grief or depression, anxiety.
Yeah. There's this like middle ground of calm. And if you're resisting the night, like the scale goes equally. If you're not willing to feel this bad, you're never going to feel better than this. But the more you go, the higher it goes at the same time.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's exactly it. Yet we're in denial. We think we must be happy all the time. And especially if we've done any training, like, we were saying, we as coaches, or if you've worked with a therapist before or anything, think that like, oh, once I figured out how to be happy, I must stay there.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most misleading thing we could ever.
It's one of the most toxic thoughts we can have, because it's not ever going to be fact that like emotions pass through you. They don't ever stick around for very long. Like if you literally,
unless we hold them in and resist feeling them, right? Then they stay.
Yes.
But you're right. Sure. When you let yourself feel, they're able to pass through.
Yeah.
Oh, and the relief, the freedom in that is so profound.
Yeah. And can we talk about the physical exhaustion that pairs with that?
Seriously, I immediately feel tension growing in my body when I start getting stressed and holding things in. Yeah. I mean, talk about, our chest tightens up. We start going like this. Our shoulders get tense. Our neck gets tense. Like we start literally feeling aches and pains in our body when we're holding in emotions that we won't let ourselves feel.
Well, and not even that. What I'm talking about is after the release, that's when you need a 3-hour nap. Of the it's finally, but there's this like peace that sort of sets in. There's this like, I got out what I needed to get out. Now I'm so tired.
I need to recover from that. Yeah,
and then you
it's
have
like running a marathon.
Yeah, you have like some of the best sleep you have ever in life after those emotional releases.
Yes. And it comes, like with just letting yourself finally feel it. But think of all of the sleepless nights that we go through leading up until that point.
Also that.
Where, gosh, if I would have just let myself feel it, let myself be human. Can we give ourselves all permission to be human and feel whatever the hell it is that's stirring up in the moment? No matter, I had plans. I need to keep my stuff together today. Like, life happens.
Yeah.
The universe has a better plan than we do.
And there are times when you need to set aside your own stuff and come back when you're ready for it in order to get through a work day or get through an event that you have planned or like something that you need to get done. But then like the important part is to come back and face what you avoided in the first place. So it doesn't build up. So it doesn't stay suppressed. So it doesn't, like sometimes if you're in the middle of a work day and you're on a phone call, right now is not the best time to be releasing all of your emotions or something like that. But like, just write it down and come back to it. And most people resist that part.
Yeah. Because, sometimes though, and I know it's definitely happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to plenty of other people, perhaps you too, Nicole, of like, in those moments where it's easy to also say like, oh, well, I'm too busy right now. Like I'm on this call, like I can't let this emotion, I need to step it down and I'll deal with it later. But until we carve that time out and give ourselves that space, I mean, it's going to keep building up until you are on that inconvenient phone call or in the middle of a meeting at work. And then the emotion bursts out and there is no control of letting it out, There is no stepping it back in anymore because there's nowhere else to step it back into.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to carve out the space to give yourself alone time, quiet time, for quiet contemplation, to just sit and settle and be with yourself. Because the more you do that, the more space you're creating, to clear that out, to let the
Yeah.
emotions flow through,
Well, and
versus
also,
letting it build up to that point of
yeah,
spontaneous combustion. Because
yeah,
it
right.
happens at the least convenient times ever. I've had them in the middle of a work day.
Yeah.
I've had them, in the middle of a meeting, in the most embarrassed, like in the middle of the grocery store, in the most inconvenient, embarrassing places. And that doesn't have to happen. But to know, it happens to the best of us. It happens to me, to you, to anybody. And to give yourself that grace. Remember, you're human.
Mm-hmm.
We're human. Emotions make us human. It's a good thing to feel them.
Yeah.
And I wish we could change that, that perspective alone in the society that we live in.
Right. Well, and sometimes you don't realize what you're doing because you've been so conditioned to just continue doing that. And it's like avoiding a very small confrontation that could take minutes to resolve, but doing that over and over and over again until, like, for me, I had a therapy session last week that was like, oh, well, this is the problem. And then I allowed myself to open up to the lies that I had been telling myself about what I was feeling. And it was just this like outpouring of, holy crap, I didn't even realize this is how deep it went.
Yes. Yeah. That was my experience this week too. Like, but it takes that time to like let yourself sit in it.
Yeah.
And like, okay, let it keep coming up, because it's gonna go real deep. Isn't it just amazing? Once you get down to the root of it, let yourself feel it long enough to get to that space. It's like, wow, this is something from so long ago. Or like, I didn't even realize that this was a thing. It was buried down so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the power of letting yourself go there and to just feel it. Give yourself some grace to, have that moment and set aside the to-do list, forget about every other care and worry and obligation, and just prioritize you.
Yeah.
That reminder this week too, though, in the season that we're in, I'm in northern Wisconsin right now. I know you're in Wisconsin too, Nicole, that it's winter. We just experienced some unseasonably cold weather, even in December. And that really reminded me of seasonal depression, because I am definitely one that's affected by that. I mean, I sold my house in Minnesota to go chase the sun all winter long in an RV because that has been such an issue for me. Yeah. And I found, here I am sitting in the winter and enduring it and embracing it and letting myself feel the feels. But I love having this conversation with you, Nicole, because as a pharmacist and your studies in functional medicine, like you are like the go-to guru on like what supplements can really help us get through this. Because it's one thing, I mean, doesn't it sound, like the pie in the sky? Oh, okay, just let myself sit and feel the feels. But it's not always so easy. Like there are things that we can do in our self-care practice. And, of course, the food is medicine. The food that we're consuming is going to affect our mood and how we feel physically. And also our supplements. Like we're here way up north. We are not seeing the sun very much anymore. And we're not even to the shortest day of the year. We got a long ways to go. So vitamin D, oh my gosh, is like my saving grace. I noticed in these days of feeling a little lower earlier this week and like feeling the feels, I also wasn't taking my vitamin D. And my goodness, after not taking it for a few days and starting again, I noticed a huge difference. So if anybody, that hasn't started taking any vitamin D yet, especially if you're in the northern states that are not seeing much sun, like our body, I mean, it's really hard to take in vitamin D through our food, right? Like it has to come in from the sun, from direct like skin contact from the sun. And when you're not seeing it,
and even showering after you get out of the sun has been shown to decrease your body's conversion of it. And I would definitely recommend getting your labs drawn whenever you can, like regularly. I don't know why it's not a standard issue lab for everything. It should be taken right along with your cholesterol and blood sugar. Like, honestly, because it's so important for so many different things in your body. And like every single organ system depends on vitamin D in some capacity. So like your mental health, especially your gut health, especially like your immune system, your like everything depends on your vitamin D. And the levels that most doctors say are good, in my opinion, as a functional medicine provider, are very much not. They're like, ugh. It's sort of like filling up your gas tank enough to make it to your destination, but let's hope you don't hit any traffic on the way, right? It's like no, you got to have a full gas tank that's also not overflowing. You don't want the gas to be leaking out the top, but make sure that you have a sufficient amount to do everything that your body needs to do instead of like just simply get to the destination. You want to have freedom to go wherever you want.
Is there, I'm sure anybody listening would be wondering, well, okay, well then how much should I be taking? This has been a topic discussion with some of my fellow friends and peers lately too, on like, what is the right amount of vitamin D to be taking, especially for those of us, say in northern Wisconsin, you know, in the northern states in the Midwest that are not getting much sun this winter. Like, is there an amount that you typically recommend to your clients? Or that
there is, but it's not like I try to make it based around what labs look like, because, you know, 1,000 units for you doesn't necessarily make the same difference as 1,000 units for me. I personally take 5,000 units a day, and my level is around, I think the last time I had it checked a couple months ago was like 76. And that's right where I want mine to be, is in that, you know, 70 to 80 range, where most doctors are like 35, you're good. It's good. Like, it's not good.
I've had that similar experience with other doctors I've seen where they're like, oh, well, no, you're okay. You're in the range, but yes. And I'm working with more that are like focused on functional medicine and more like holistic alternative, practitioners are all like, no. I've even been told like, no, you can't even take too much vitamin D because we Midwesterners our levels are so deficient that.
Well, and not even Midwesterners. It's throughout. I mean, anybody who puts sunscreen on daily is not getting vitamin D. If you're sitting out in the sun with sunscreen on, that is blocking your body from producing sufficient amounts of vitamin D. So even if you're in Florida, you need to get your levels checked, because if you're not out in the sun with sunscreen on, then you're in a building that's not getting sun exposure inside, right? Like, there's so many different factors to it other than, and it's also like you need it on, I don't remember off the top of my head, but X percentage of your skin needs to be exposed for at least 15 to 20 minutes solid, like continuous, in order for your body to produce enough of its own vitamin D. And even, I mean, short of like going boating and not putting, I mean, you're still going to make more if you're out in the sun with sunscreen on than if you were inside, but still, it's like, you want to protect yourself from burning. So you're pretty much not going to have adequate vitamin D levels unless you're supplementing. And that looks a little bit different for every person, but yeah, it depends on your gut health too. But if your vitamin D levels are low, your gut health suffers. In your intestines, the tight junctions kind of loosen up, and you have what's called leaky gut, which leads to all kinds of inflammation in your body. And then it's kind of your genes that point the direction for how that manifests as disease in your body. But like, simply taking a vitamin D can have a major impact on all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been taking 5,000 IU a day also. And man, I've been feeling great, but I like how you said, I mean, everybody's different, you know, depending on where you live, what your lifestyle is like, your gut health, your diet, everything, exercise, all comes into play, right? Because everything is connected. But my goodness, if you're not taking, you know, any vitamin D now, I mean, any quantity, right, is better than nothing, right? To get something started, and you might be surprised at how greatly that might influence and boost and help your mood as we get through, you know, the darkest months of the year.
Yeah. And I know that there are some doctors who are scared about like giving too much vitamin D, and that's also not a good thing. But it's like, once you get to a certain level, you have to take like exponentially more to keep increasing it. Like, it's really, really hard to overdose on vitamin D. That is not permission to go out and take handfuls of it, but like taking 2,000 to 5,000 units a day is generally a good recommendation coming from me. Again, that's not a recommendation for you specifically or anybody else specifically, but that's usually where my recommendations land per day. And vitamin D is a wonderful one where you can actually take a big dose once a week and call it good, because it's a fat soluble vitamin that slowly releases from it slowly releases in your body from fat cells where it sort of gets stored. So missing it for a couple of days, unless you're on a pretty low dose of it, is not going to make that much of a difference. But and there are some that actually take like a 50,000 unit pill once a month, and their vitamin D levels are good because it's so slow release in your body. So it takes a little while to build up. It takes a little while to kind of drop off too.
Yeah. Interesting and nice. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's got my mind turning to another supplement that I found to be super helpful. And what I've read is that it complements vitamin D very greatly is magnesium.
Yep. Well, also before we move on from vitamin D, I always recommend a vitamin D with K2 in it. And a lot of people go immediately to like clotting with vitamin K. That's K1. K1 is what's involved with blood clotting. K2 is so vitamin D, part of what vitamin D does is helps your body to absorb calcium. And if you're taking lots of vitamin D and your vitamin D levels are great, and you don't have enough vitamin K, which is also hard to get through food, it's not going to put the calcium in your bones. It's going to put it in your arteries. It's going to put it in your kidneys. It's going to put it in your gallbladder.
Interesting.
So it's going to cause a lot of issues if you don't have vitamin K to then use the calcium and put it in your bones to make them stronger.
Interesting.
So,
see,
yeah.
learning.
I thought that's what you were going to say. I was like, wow.
Yes. No, that wasn't what I was going to say. I was moving on to this. Its compatibility with magnesium, but K2, that's a new one for me that I didn't realize. So that's why I love leaning on my friend here, Nicole, and all of her wise advice from her pharmaceutical perspective.
Yeah.
So, which that's got me leading. I'm sure many people would be wondering, well, what the heck? What kind of vitamin D do I get then? But you sell supplements.
I do have a supplement
correct?
store, yes. But the vitamin D is not one that usually has a lot of extra stuff. The brands that I like are, there's actually a liquid D plus K2 that is really great because like one drop of it is 1,000 units of vitamin D, and it's basically tasteless. You just put it like literally on your tongue or like in a drink that you have. So for people who don't like swallowing pills, that's great. I take a pill version of it because I found myself forgetting to actually use the dropper with the other supplements that I take, because it's like, oh, now I have 2 tasks to do instead of just, okay, here's whatever. But yeah, there's a few brands that I do prefer just because they for sure don't add anything extra that doesn't need to be there. That can cause other issues in the body. So orthomolecular is one, pure encapsulations is another one. There are good brands out there. So like, the vitamin D is not one that I caution against using the store brands as much, but just make sure you've got one with vitamin K in it as well. And then it's probably a good one if the manufacturer is aware of that and has that in there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to be looking at, what brand I have, and K2 is included in that. Excellent. Yeah. But yeah, then what are your thoughts? Throwing in there magnesium and vitamin D.
Those are like my top. Yeah. Magnesium, vitamin D, fish oil are pretty much everybody needs these things in their lives. But magnesium is also used in so many different processes inside our cells. It's in like 250 or 300 different processes inside each cell in our body. So, and measuring magnesium in the body is not as straightforward because most of the time you'll get a serum level, and that's only what's floating around outside your cells. You want to know what's inside your cells. So having a red blood cell magnesium, if you get labs done, is what's most helpful. But even that is sort of okay, well, what size shoe do you wear? If you measure a size 7, but you actually wear a size 9, you need more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same with a lot of different things with like thyroid levels and all that sort of stuff. Like, what is right for your body? How do you feel? So if you're having muscle aches, muscle spasms, muscle cramps, those sorts of things, those are dead giveaways that you need magnesium in your body, or that's one of the first things that I would certainly look at least. So if you need muscle relaxers for anything, magnesium is something that I think should go along with that, because a lot of times like things like restless legs resolve themselves when you get enough magnesium.
Yeah, that's what I found fascinating about magnesium, because it was first brought to my attention by a nutritionist and my massage therapist at the time. that, oh, well, I mean, to help ease with your achy, sore body and muscles, that more magnesium can actually help with that.
Yeah.
And that it can help help with your mood as well. So that's why I wanted to bring that up,
good for mental
with
health.
it going hand in hand with vitamin D as we are enduring, these hard seasons and the seasonal depression. That vitamin D is other best friend, magnesium, go hand in hand. And isn't the absorption, I've mixed these up. Like, doesn't one help the other absorb better in the body by taking them together?
Not for magnesium, I don't think. For calcium, yes. Vitamin D helps calcium get absorbed. They're definitely related in there. Like, calcium is another aspect of that. Is calcium is what helps your muscles to contract, and magnesium helps them to relax. Like, you need both of those things. So that's why the muscle cramps and those sorts of things are like muscles that don't want to let go. And if you have enough magnesium to expedite that process, that's great. But also migraines, one of my first go-tos is magnesium. And we're not talking magnesium oxide that's available very widely over the counter. Magnesium oxide doesn't get absorbed well enough in your body to make that much of a difference. And if you are getting enough absorbed, you're taking so much that you're probably going to be crapping your brains out. But
note to self.
Yeah, right. Looking at a chelated form is going to be what is much better absorbed in the body. So my go-to there is either magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate. Magnesium L-threonate is a great one that crosses the blood-brain barrier a little bit better. Magnesium malate, I believe, is a little bit better for muscle stuff, but like all of them are going to be good for helping to raise magnesium levels appropriately in the body.
Yes. Excellent. I'm so glad you remembered and brought up that point, because that was a big one too, of just, the type of magnesium that you're taking. Of course, if you're going to be buying a supplement and taking one every day, you want to make sure that your body's able to, absorb the most of its benefits.
Yep.
So I think those are some, so many great things that we've discussed here and brought to light, shedding to light. In a nutshell, really, like, the first things first, let yourself be human.
Yeah.
Understand you're not the only one, going through, if you're finding yourself, feeling even like blindsided by, just deeper emotions, maybe feeling more depressed, more anxious through this season, you are not alone. You're human. And thank God for that. Let yourself be human and feel the feels, and know that when it does get really challenging, that you've got tools to help, relieve a lot of, this pain and the struggle. Feeling our feelings does not need to be so much of a struggle, and to really help boost you up and boost those moods, relax your body, vitamin D, magnesium, and reaching out, for some guidance and help. I know between Nicole and I mean, we got connected because we are fellow coaches, and I love that we have our different areas of expertise. So those of you that know me, I'm an intuitive guide. I do card readings. I'm a yoga teacher, and I do a lot of my coaching now is transformed into intuitive guidance. So I like playing with the cards and guiding my clients who are looking for more of a spiritual connection, perhaps connecting with past loved ones, and getting a deeper connection with themselves, really learning how to master self-love and making peace with your past, so that you can learn how to manifest miracles into your daily life. And I love, I found my work because I lived it. And now I'm a living example of how profound that change, going from really depression and despair, and helping like dig yourself out of the darkness to find the light. It is totally possible. I did it myself. I wrote a book about it that's coming out soon. So check it out. The Daisy Diaries. Can get on the wait list for pre-release at thedaisydiariesbook.com. And feel free to contact me anytime to get more information, or if you're curious about what card readings are all about, I'd be happy to answer any of those for you or dive right into one. And then Nicole, your amazing expertise in, as a pharmacist in functional medicine, and now as a coach as well. It's just amazing. It's so fun watching.
And my coaching journey has definitely changed from the beginning, because I started out as just a health coach because it naturally came from, functional medicine and pharmacy and all that sort of thing. Like, oh, health is, whatever. And then for me, having experienced so much anxiety, I have been through the depths of depression and the depths of anxiety. And like, that became a much more important thing to me to help people through, because like, none of your health can align unless your mental health is also there. So helping people through those deep, dark, twisty moments to find themselves again has been my passion. And then also along my journey, I have discovered human design, and now I use that with all my clients. And human design kind of leans into that, woo side of things that, for a little while, I was scared that the entire medical community is going to cancel me if I'm starting to use this astrology based thing, whatever. But like, that was, the work to overcome that and just allow myself to be out there in the open with what I believe is helpful, because it was such a self-affirming thing for me, was like pretty incredible, because like I have this tool that taught me it's okay to be who I am. And like, if I don't share that with people, that doesn't feel good to me.
Right.
But yeah, like using all of those things together. So I find myself sort of in this like amazing mixture of human design plus like thought work coaching plus health, information and recommendations and those sorts of things. It's been this amazing journey to find out who I'm becoming. And I don't know that I'm going to stop there either, but yeah, it's been crazy.
We've got a long journey yet, don't we? But isn't it amazing, right? As two women that have, really suffered a lot in life, we've learned a lot, we've grown, we've evolved, and now we've stepped into, creating these businesses to serve our deepest purpose and helping others overcome and endure and rise above the same kind of pain that we felt and faced before. And how beautiful is that the people that come into your life are so divine, right? And you find, that you resonate more with certain people, and you'll find different coaches have different styles and, different services that they offer. And that's beautiful. Like, I don't think there could be enough coaches in the world out there right now, because
there's so many people that don't have one, and we all need one.
We all need one. I know I have one. I know you've got one. Like, I will never go again in my life without having coaches, therapists, and mentors in my life to help. We're all light workers, right? We all need someone else shining a light, to help shine the light on our path. And then we can take that light and shine that light on a path for someone else. And that's what this work is all about. So any of you that are curious, and you're ready to have a little bit more light shined on your path, feel free to reach out to myself or Nicole. You can see our contact information below. Feel free to comment on the video, your feedback on any experiences you've been having through all of feeling the feels as we enter this dark season. Maybe, your feedback on any supplements you're taking, what's working, what's not, anything that you found especially helpful in this discussion, anything you want to hear more about. Because stay tuned, you'll be seeing more discussions between Nicole and I coming up in the future here.
Yeah, this feels like it might be a regular thing that happens.
It's feeling right for me, and these discussions, right, it's valuable, right, to be having these discussions and sharing them with others. Again, ultimately reminding you, let yourself be human. Feeling the feels is one of the best things you can let yourself do. All of them, not just the good ones. And know that we as coaches know that is like the most important thing I've ever learned. So let myself feel the feels and know that they're never going to stop. Because again, every time we feel those extreme lows, it's going to prepare us to feel the extreme highs. So let yourself feel it. The more pain you allow yourself to feel and let it pass through opens you up to that much more joy. And we are here to help support you through that journey. So feel free to reach out and contact us anytime. Thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing this time and space, this great conversation, and all of your knowledge with me. And I'm already looking forward to next time.
Yeah, next time we'll remember to hit record at the beginning.
We will.
Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. Many of you will be able to take the ideas that you've heard and apply them in your daily life, and that's really all you need. That's amazing. But for those of you who could use a little one-on-one help with how to make these things actually work for you in your real life, please reach out. The link to schedule a consult with me is in the show notes. You don't have to do this alone. See you soon.